Elise heard her phone ring. She picked up the phone and heard Zach panicking on the other end.
Elise, my grandmother is dying. If you want to say goodbye, this might be your last chance.
Elise almost set down the phone in shock.
Are you on your way to the hospital now? Yes. Do you want me to bring you with me?
Yes, if you could pick me up, that'd be great. Elise held back tears as she crawled into the passenger seat beside Zach. After finally arriving at the hospital, he held Elise's hand, giving it a supportive squeeze as he led her to his grandmother's ward. When they arrived at the ward, they saw that Chloe was already there, seated beside the sickbed, crying. Geraldine lay still on the hospital bed, with a white sheet covering her body and her face. Elise's heart nearly stopped. The doctor lifted the white cloth to allow Elise, Zach, and Chloe one last look before Geraldine's body was taken away. Chloe dried her eyes and looked up at Zach and Elise.
Grandma said that she wanted to be buried in Greenwood Cemetery next to her father.
Elise worked with Zach, Chloe, and Theo to arrange the funeral. The day of the funeral itself passed in a blur. After the funeral, Zach walked with Elise back to her place in Sunset Park and told her to pack an overnight bag with some of her things. Elise took up residence in Zach's Soho loft once more. They didn't know how to comfort each other, but they tried, holding each other through the sleepless nights and offering steady support. Zach stepped out of the apartment to go for a walk and froze. He saw a figure standing at the edge of the sidewalk, staring at him. The man was dressed sharply. For a moment, it seemed that Elise appeared next to him. Zach blinked. No, Elise wasn't there, but this man was surely Jonathan. Jonathan coming back from the dead to haunt him. Just as soon as he saw the man, he disappeared. Zach looked around. He returned to the apartment and held Elise in his arms. He realized that he was terrified of losing her. Elise curled back into Zach's body and went to sleep. She had a nightmare, but this nightmare was a familiar, recurring one. Flames scorched her skin in the dream, and she smelled smoke everywhere. A skinny young man pushed her out of the range of the fire.
Jonathan!
Elise cried Jonathan's name in her sleep. Zach frowned when he noticed that she was crying. He took a tissue from the bedside table, wiping her tears. Zach resolved not to press Elise for information. Zach waited until her breathing evened out, then stepped out onto the balcony to smoke a cigarette. Zach reached into his pocket for his phone and sighed when he saw the call was from Delaney. He declined the call. Zach's phone rang again. He saw that this time the call was from his father. Zach answered the call and heard his father's no-nonsense tone on the other end.
When are you coming to visit your mother and I? Soon. I'm just taking care of Elise. Doesn't she have her own family to take care of her? It's your grandmother who died. She should be taking care of you. Elise's family has their own troubles. She doesn't want to burden them. We've been taking care of each other. I haven't been feeling great either. You need to stop being so codependent with Elise and sign those divorce papers. Enough is enough.
Zach hung up the phone without saying goodbye. Elise began to wake up. She opened her sleepy eyes, looked for Zach, but didn't see him. Rubbing her eyes to clear her drowsy brain, she found him on the balcony, his figure striking under only the balcony light. Zach put out his cigarette when he noticed Elise hovering near the balcony door.
Why don't you go back to bed? It's cold. You look like you could use the sleep.
Elise grabbed one of Zach's jackets from a nearby chair. I woke up and thought you were gone. I had to check. Zach held Elise close.
I would never leave you without saying goodbye.
The statement hung in the air between them, feeling oddly weighty. Zach stroked Elise's hair.
Are you going back to your place tomorrow?
I'd like to stay with you for a while longer if you'll have me. Zach kissed Elise, then pulled back.
You can stay here as long as you'd like.
Elise shivered. You're right, it's cold out here. I'm going back inside. Zach gave Elise a parting hug before she headed back indoors. He stayed on the balcony looking out at the city. He looked down and froze. Below the balcony, he saw Jonathan, wearing a black jacket and mask, as in his previous vision. Zach debated whether to tell Elise about his visions, but decided against it. Elise noticed that Zach looked troubled. Are you okay, Zach? Zach tried to give her a reassuring smile.
I will be. I'm just dealing with some nightmares of my own.
Elise handed him a cup of tea and gave him a quick hug. Zach allowed him to take in her familiar scent, to find comfort in her embrace. He was uncertain about the future, but thought that if he and Elise could stay together, they might both be able to come out of everything on top.
Hi, I'm Elise. Want to know my story? Then download the Pocket FM app and listen to the exciting episodes of After the Divorce. Now,